Welcome to Nacd BoardVision, where leading boardroom advisors, governance professionals, and seasoned directors discuss critical issues related to your responsibilities in the boardroom.
Welcome to NACD's BoardVision. I'm Peter Gleason, Managing Director of NACD. I'm joined today by Bruce Nullup. Bruce is a director at Marsh McLennan Companies and is the former CFO of E-Trade. Welcome, Bruce. It's good to have you with us.
It's my pleasure.
On this episode of BoardVision, we're going to be talking about risk governance and specifically risk appetite statements. When we went through our Blue Ribbon Commission report on risk governance, we indicated that companies ought to create a formal risk appetite statement to help the boards oversee the risk management of the company. And while we made that recommendation a number of years ago, actually our survey tells us that only about 25% of companies have actually done so. So, Bruce, what exactly is a risk appetite statement, and how did Marsh McLennan go about defining theirs?
Well, that was one of the learnings, was exactly what should be in a risk appetite statement. And I think that the statements will vary by companies and by industries, but in our case, we divided up the statement into 5 sections. So it was financial performance, financial stability, client business, people, and operational performance. And then for each of those categories, we talked about what are the risks that we want to encourage the company to take? What are the risks that are unacceptable? For example, legal compliance or employee safety were just unacceptable risks. And then there were the third category, which is the type of risk that we want to mitigate. And in that case, we would do a cost-benefit analysis as to whether or not the mitigation is worth it. And then finally, the risk appetite statement helps provide the criteria by which the management and board can judge whether or not the benefits of a particular risk are worth taking.
Can you give us a little bit more insight into the process that the board went through in order to start the whole exercise?
I think the most important thing we did was just start the process. And I say that because the first draft is going to be a long ways from the finished product. So the risk management staff of the company did a first draft, and again, it was in the context of declarative sentences and trying to be overall summary of how the company views risk. And then that version was edited and reviewed and discussed by the management team, and they made various additions and changes. And then it went to the risk committee of the board, and we likewise spent a lot of time just discussing the points, trying to see where we had consensus and where we had differences. And then we iterated those processes several times. So it was not a staff delegated project, it was much more of a discussion vehicle. And then eventually we got to the full board, and even there was some more editing, some more review, and then that went back through additional processes. And then once we got it done, our CEO, Dan Glazer, put out a letter to all employees explaining what the risk appetite statement was, and now it's out to the entire world of Marsh McLennan employees. In fact, it was translated into 15 languages, which really makes it one of our core documents for managing the company.
In terms of the dialogue that you had at the board level, and again, that's what this is really all about, was there anything that were key learning points for you in this process?
Yeah, I think there were actually several learning points. Instead of being what you should not do, it often in the risk appetite statement was, what do we want to do? What are the risks that we really want to take on? What do we want to encourage? For example, introducing new products and new processes can be risky and it has a risk of failure. But on the other hand, it can prevent more systemic risks like technological disruptions or challenges to your business model. Okay. The other learning I think I would emphasize is that the qualitative areas were extremely important. So for example, we have a section in the appetite statement on corporate culture and management programs, with the idea that the quality of the people and the transparency of the culture are one of the greatest areas to have the type of risk attitude that we want throughout the company.
Great. Now, for those of the boards, the 75% that haven't done this yet, what are a couple of things that you can kind of give them as recommendations as they're contemplating going through this process? Is anything you might want to share with them?
Yeah, I'd say that the two things that I think we really did well and right were, first is we didn't try to come up with a perfect product to start with. That, again, we went through several drafts and several iterations. It's also important to use it as a way to distinguish what should be discussed at the board level and what is probably not something that needs to be at the board level. I think it's important also to write the risk appetite statement in a way that you'd be comfortable sharing it with employees, customers, regulators, investors, rating agencies, and even your third-party service providers.
So plain English is the point.
Plain English, and not including a lot of proprietary information, and really focus more on the type of management practices that you're proud to share with the world.
Great. Well, Bruce, I can't thank you enough for sharing how the MMC or Marsh McLennan Board went through this process and some of the key takeaways that you had with it. On behalf of NACD, on behalf of Bruce and Marsh McLennan Companies, thanks for watching BoardVision.